Welcome to an all-new episode of the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. This is Corey Richmond, joined by Jason Brooks. Jason, welcome to the new world known as Peacock Prime, Peacock Netflix, Peacock Hulu, Peacock Disney Plus. You get it for free, and I guess you'll be canceling in a couple of months. I'll be paying $4.99. Welcome
Canceling the network. I'm canceling the network. What's the day after the Rumble? February. Well, you know they're gimmicking it because they're gonna make you pay for that extra month. But I'm canceling the network. February 1st at 11:59 or whatever.
All right, I guess I'll be asking someone else to go and talk about Elimination Chamber then.
Yeah. Oh, is it for? Oh, it starts at Fastlane, right?
Right. So.
They're gonna get another month out of me, son of a bitch. All right.
You mean you're not going to be here for St. Valentine's Day Massacre or whatever the NXT pay-per-view is that weekend?
Whatever. I'll pay for it for that extra month. Whenever it goes to Peacock is when I will switch. Yeah.
Welcome back to WWE Network for a month. Good job. We did it.
Yeah. No, I think Corey, it's other people have talked about it, so I don't want to take shine and act like this is an original point. And welcome everyone to the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast who's listening. But just so you guys know, we are on Instagram and Twitter at Work Shoot Pod. But it's like such an interesting thing where people have talked about it, where essentially WWE is just a content company. It's not about having a good pay-per-view or a good show. It's kind of just about putting a lot of shit out there so people watch it. One of the things that we talked about this pre-show, Corey, if you put out whatever, 15 hours of TV / let's say between pay-per-views and, one pay-per-view a month, and then their network, the network special, NXT, the main roster stuff. If they get 2 million or more to watch every one of those events, they could be total shit, but they're going to get 1.52 million people to watch no matter what it is.
Right.
That is so much money because, Corey, how many people are watching live TV? 2 million people watching one event live. Like, content's king, right? And so whether these shows are good or not, it doesn't matter because they're making money kind of hand over fist. So I think, listen, I mean, God bless, Vince is not my favorite person in the world. I think he's a scumbag. I don't think he's a great person at all, but he knows how to make money. He absolutely knows how to make money. And, I don't know if any of the wrestlers are going to get bonuses based off this $1 billion deal either, right? That money is all going to Vince and the stockholders. So, it's just a great deal for the WWE. Peacock is kind of a mess to stream. I've been doing it for a few months with Premier League Soccer. It's horrible to stream. It's glitchy. It's kind of a mess, but I guess we'll see. Kind of how it goes. And for Peacock, they need some type of subscription service. They need some type of big time service for their subscription. Having reruns of The Office isn't going to cut it, right? So they need something like this, and this is what they're doing, and good for the WWE.
I mean, so like you said, they're basically a content provider now more than anything else. I mean, someone put up online basically $265 million a year from the USA Network for Raw, $205 million a year from Fox for Smackdown, $200 million a year for Peacock. So that's $670 million in revenue, almost completely independent of most direct consumers' involvement, which is once the lifeblood of wrestling, tickets, merchandise, and pay-per-view. So that's like all now secondary. I mean, there are still some people for the last, 7 years, it's a small percentage, that were still buying, pay-per-views at $55 or $60 a pop. And we still know there's a pay-per-view business while, there's like 1.3 million people bought the UFC pay-per-view this past weekend with McGregor and Poirier. So there is still a pay-per-view market, and there's 100,000 people who will buy, the AEW pay-per-view next month and somewhere in that range, to watch, 61-year-old, Sting, in a choreographed street fight, hopefully cinematic. So we don't have to see him, hurt himself, hopefully too bad. But it is amazing that, like you said, this is a content provider more than anything else. And it's going to be interesting to see what the future is as a result, because the amount of money that Peacock, USA Network, the NBC family is spending, is this the future? This, of course, is all hypothetical, but if you're spending this much money, and I guess that's a combined $465 million by NBC properties for the WWE, is at some point, is NBC just going to buy the WWE? You know, I know most likely, as long as Vince is in charge, will never happen, but at some point, Vince will stop going to
I
the
mean, it would make financial sense for them to buy the WWE. It really would make financial sense instead of spending, whatever, $500 million a year on it. If you buy it, then you have it and you have the rights, and then you're making money off all that. So yeah, no, I think it would make sense for them to own it at some point. I don't see that happening. It doesn't make sense for the WWE to do that, but yeah, I mean, and Corey, that's the thing. We could talk about how shitty Raw is, which it was. It was another horrible show. But at the end of the day, if they're getting 1.52 million people to watch this every week, it's like it doesn't matter. These shows have been bad for a long time. We talked about the declining ratings over the last 10 years on one of our shows a while back. That's not affecting anything. They're still making a ton of money, right? It doesn't matter how bad the shows are. And this isn't like the NFL where the players are getting 49, 47%, whatever it is of the revenue, or baseball or the NBA where it's probably closer to 50-50, right? I have no idea. Reigns is one of the highest paid guys. I don't know. Maybe he makes 5-10 million. Maybe, wow. Maybe, right? They're making $500 million a year just from NBC, and your highest paid guy probably makes 10 million. Like, think about the NFL where, Watson makes whatever, 30, 35, Mahomes makes 42. It's just, it is, they're just making money hand over fist. They really, really are. It's very, very interesting. And it's interesting that nobody has looked into this business at all of saying, like, how much do these guys make? Why can't they do stuff on Twitch? Like, why, it's very, very interesting. But, WWE's been able to do this for a long time. So, God bless them. So we'll see with Peacock, how it goes. I think you guys are going to be in for a pretty frustrating experience to watch it with the streaming issues that kind of continually occur. And I've had it since whenever they started, and it's been a mess. It's been not great. So we'll see if they are improving, because the problem now is with the network, they're going to have a lot more bandwidth on their channel. So I watch Premier League games Saturday morning, and it's a struggle. So we'll see how they do on these network specials, pay-per-views.
Now, and it's interesting. I was going to ask you about that. Like, I have a couple of streaming services. You have a couple of streaming services. I wonder, though, how much it will help, where one of the things that WWE Network has is it shares everything with BAM, which does the stuff for baseball with their digital service, and they'll be bringing that in from the WWE Network. Now, WWE Network, when it first started, there were problems, just like Hulu when they revamped, and Disney Plus first started. I mean, it was pretty smooth, but most of these services, when they first start, there are problems. In the next 2 months, and especially one thing that I think is very important here, is that they're going to have this trial period. And I think this is why they did it in March with Fastlane, is they're going to have a little bit of a time to see before WrestleMania with the Fastlane pay-per-view to try to maybe get some of the bugs out and get a little test run. So the first thing that happens is they don't have, WrestleMania being a total disaster where, basically what happened with, UFC pay-per-view this past weekend, where you had a bunch of people on the West Coast did not see the first, half hour, 45 minutes of the pay-per-view because there was such an influx of people wanting to see the McGregor fight that, they got overloaded.
Yeah, ESPN has some problems with that too. I've been watching ESPN Plus for years and years, and they do have glitches too. Not like Peacock has though. So yeah, we'll see how it works. But you're right, it is important that they got. I really think they should have tried to do it before Elimination Chamber, to be honest with you, because I don't know if one network special is going to be enough one pay-per-view is going to be enough of a sample size for them to figure it out. But I guess we'll see what happens.
And I guess the last thing on this before we move on, and I want to thank Jackie Endy from You Don't Know Jackie podcast for chiming in. Tech guy Corey can fix the streaming for them. Yeah, I can barely fix my parents' streaming when they have problems with HBO Max. So I don't think I'm the guy to help on that one. But want to quickly, on when it comes to the streaming end of all these things, do you see when it comes to Peacock, what are the major problems with it that you think do you think a lot of people are, how often on the premium version that you have, do you see ads? Because the big thing is people who are moving over are $4.90.
I don't ever see ads, but it's different. I watch soccer. They don't have commercials. They have the 45 minutes. That's why it's such a great sport to watch. 45 minutes, halftime, then the game. I mean, there's commercials, but there's commercials because that's just what's going on then. But I don't know, like a service like the network. I don't think there'll be commercials. I mean,
that's what because right now the thing is what people are going to realize is that for everybody, they $9.99 for the WWE Network. When you go over to Peacock Premium, which all the people have, it'll be $4.99, but it'll be with ads. And if you don't want ads, it will be $9.99. So you're back to the amount that you're already paying. And unless you have, Cox or Comcast or Xfinity, which you'll be getting for free, like Jason will, and I will be, suggesting maybe I could share a password, but I didn't mean that.
No. I mean, so I did not know that. I thought premium was free. So regular Peacock's $4.99, and then premium with no ads is $9.99.
Right. Well, you have premium.
Yeah. I'm saying I didn't know. I mean, because for me it doesn't matter, right? Because I only watch one thing on there anyway. I wouldn't have even known the difference. So, but they're not. Are they going to show ads like during the pay-per-views? That doesn't make.
No, that they haven't said yet.
I think. I mean, I guess like then people would just buy it for $9.99. I don't know. I guess it could go either way. It doesn't sound like they've completely done a great job of letting everybody know exactly what they're going to be getting, but also they just acquired it, right? So they're figuring it out. So I think as we go along, we'll get more details, and I think after Fastlane, we'll know a lot more about how this is all going to look. But if you guys are interested in, guys who might be listening to us on Russell Life or whatever, talking about Peacock Premium, and do you know anything about it? The other thing about Peacock is it's not everywhere. You can't get Peacock everywhere. So like I have a Samsung Smart TV and Peacock's not on there. But really? I have Google Home and it's on Google Home. It might be on Roku and some of the others. So Peacock's not everywhere yet. So that's also a bit of an issue. So that'll be an interesting thing to see if they can get that worked out to make sure everybody a lot of people have Samsung TVs, right? So everybody who has access to it can have access to it. So a lot of things for them to figure out before this happens. So we'll see.
It's a developing story. We'll look more into it as the weeks go on. But one of the last things you'll be able to see on the WWE Network that people care about, it's my favorite pay-per-view of the year. Jay, I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm pretty sure in conversation we had past, it's your favorite pay-per-view.
Absolutely. It's my wife's favorite pay-per-view.
Well, one of the many things besides that one thing that, about your wife I don't like. Well, we'll talk about that another time. But the Royal Rumble this Sunday, we're going to get into a pretty deep dive into it here in a matter of moments. But I always ask you before we get into the deep dive, what is your interest level in Sunday's review? I know it's your favorite one, mine, but if you watch Smackdown, I think they've done a pretty decent job of making you think, maybe Cesaro or Daniel Bryan has an outside chance. Raw on Monday told you that Edge is coming back and has a chance, but otherwise, how well of a job have they done besides, interest of loving the pay-per-view, of you actually caring about this pay-per-view on Sunday?
Horrible. I mean, I mean, I'm gonna watch it because it's the Royal Rumble, and you have to watch the Royal Rumble. But am I interested? I mean, you have Goldberg. I could care less about Goldberg. So that's also me being the Mark who just doesn't. I haven't liked Goldberg since the 90s. Like, I didn't really like him in WCW. It's like, I certainly don't like him now with his 5 moves of doom. I mean, Corey, he did a spear on Miz or Morrison, one of them, and he seemed like he was gassed. It seemed like he was out of gas. I don't know how he's going to wrestle any match longer than 5 minutes. So you got that match. Owens and Reigns is great. They have great chemistry, but Owens loses every time. You have Carmella against Sasha, which could be interesting. There's a women's tag match. They've done such a just poor job of like hyping this pay-per-view. AJ just beats everybody who's trying to be on the show. There's just no, I think they've just done a poor job of hyping who's in the Royal Rumble, why they want to win it. You know, have some promos with guys talking about being in the Royal Rumble and what, and their childhood heroes winning it and how they want to win it. And like, there's been no build to the actual Royal Rumble itself. There's been build to these matches that we know the outcomes of already, but there's been no build to the actual Royal Rumble match. And here's the thing, Corey, maybe WWE is taking it for granted. Maybe they're taking it for granted that we know everyone loves a Royal Rumble match. We don't really have to hype it. We could do some spots here and there, talking to people about it, but we don't really need to hype it that much on television because we know that's the draw and everyone's going to watch it. So that's the way that it's come off in terms of how they've built it. So am I like super interested? I mean, I'm interested because it's the Royal Rumble. It's usually their best show. But we'll see. Yeah. So that's where I am. And where are you at your interest level? So if you do the 1 out of 10 thing, I'm a 6.5 because it's the Royal Rumble. I have to be. The way they've built it, I would be probably a 3.
The Royal Rumble matches themselves, I'm always interested in. The Smackdown title match has me intrigued because of the promos that have been done. I think Carmella and Sasha have done a decent job. I mean, I don't believe that Carmella can win, so it's hurt a little bit. So I mean, I think I'm at a similar level than you are, maybe a slightly higher, maybe 4.5, 5. So it's not very good. I mean, it's just the idea, and it's also maybe some of my lack of interest, or it's a little bit of fear of the fact that as much as you hope that Drew McIntyre holds on to the title, there's in the back of their mind they think Goldberg is a draw, and they may have Goldberg win. And
I think no way he wins. I think no way he wins. I think there's no way he wins. You cannot have that man win that match. You can't. Even Drew, like trying to hype Goldberg up and say, and Goldberg, in 1998, he was so great. That was 23 years ago. It's a long fucking time ago. He's talking about what he did. God bless him. But that was so long ago. And we're still talking about this. It's madness. It's madness. So anyway, we'll see. Here's the thing. And we've talked about this and we've done this a lot where we rip the WWE. We say we're not interested in the show, all this other shit. And then never done that. And then we watch the show and then we're like, hey, it was a pretty good show. Like, we enjoyed that. That was a good show. So I think that's what's going to happen here. I think it'll be a fun, enjoyable show. I just think it's a show that we're not necessarily, the Drew match should be 5 minutes or less. The Reigns Owens match, that's been a great feud, Corey. They've had great matches. That cage match was great. Their matches have been fantastic. So it's going to be a great match. And the tag team match, hopefully Nia doesn't kill anyone. And then you got the 2 Royal Rumble matches. So it should be an overall good show. Other than the Goldberg match. So I'm not super excited about it because they haven't led me to it, but I think it'll be a good show.
Yeah. I mean, like you just said, on paper, these shows usually they overseed because when push comes to shove, these are the greatest wrestling athletes. Weird way to put it, but these guys and gals, men and women, are on the top of their field. And when the lights are brightest, they step up. The build to these shows and the promos and how these storylines a lot of times make you go and scratch your head saying, why should I care? But you have the network, it's $9.99, the slogan's gone in our head, but they usually deliver in one way or another. A lot of these cards, you go, all right, it turned out to be a pretty solid show. I mean, yeah, you have your duds here and there, but for the most part, they usually do pretty well. So let's do it quickly here and talk about some of these matches. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens, last man standing match. Do you think we finally get, pretty much a straight up match here, or do we get the usual Jey Uso and maybe Apollo Crews, who apparently is now part of the stable of guys interfering 400 times? Or what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, it's the last man standing match. Yes, there's going to be a lot of interference. Maybe we see, if the whole idea is we might get some hype towards a Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns WrestleMania match. Maybe we see Daniel Bryan come in and interfere and try to help Owens. Maybe Owens wins, do a transitional champion, kind of what you're afraid about with Goldberg. I can't see Owens winning, like having the title going into WrestleMania. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of interference for sure. But I think it's going to still be a fun match. Like, you can have good matches with interference. Like, it's okay if there's interference. It's just if it's over the top and annoying, where it can be a problem, which I think they've done a really good job of towing the line of being annoying and it being like pretty well done. Like the cage match, I thought it was really well done. So, we'll kind of see what happens there.
And like I said, and we both believe Roman Reigns is going to win the match. I do think it's going to be interesting to see how much bells and whistles they do. This is to be one of their last shows without a crowd, because, as we spoke about last week, WrestleMania over 2 nights, they'll have people. So it's going to be interesting to see what bells and whistles they do and how much, and it's going to be interesting. And we'll talk about this in the next match as well. Place order of this, Do you think one of these 2 title matches might be the first match of the show to start off hot, or do you think they start off a Rumble, or how do you think?
I figured they've done the women's. Haven't they done the women's Rumble first a lot of years, or am I crazy?
I believe.
Oh, they did. Oh, hold on. 2 years. Last year they did Becky first against Asuka, and then she ended up winning. Did she win She won the Rumble, right? No, huh?
Oh, didn't she win 2 years ago?
No, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Right?
I think so.
I feel like I'm getting my Royal Rumbles confused.
They all go back.
The one she lost to Asuka, and then she came back and won the Royal Rumble that year.
Right.
But I think when they've done the women's Royal Rumbles, I feel like they've most of the time been the first match. So I would expect that to be the first match. Maybe you have, I mean, you have Charlotte, you have Shayna Baszler and Nia. Those are going to be 3 of the biggest players in the women's Royal Rumble. So I don't know. They're going to have to figure that part out. I don't think they're going to have they probably want to have a women's Royal Rumble and then have them wrestle. So I think maybe they have them wrestle, have 1 or 2 of the world title matches, then go to the women's Royal Rumble, then the men's Royal Rumble. I don't know. We'll see.
Because I think it could be interesting that, if you have you may want to have, maybe even add a match, because they may add an intercontinental title match, maybe a 3-way with Apollo and Sami Zayn and
Big E. Yeah, I don't know that they do. Well, they might, but
you can have that be your opener.
Yeah, but the one thing is they've been ending these pay-per-views short. These aren't 3-hour shows anymore.
That's true.
So they don't need it to be, if both Royal Rumbles are 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and that's 2 hours right there, basically. And then
5 minutes.
Drew Goldberg will be 2 minutes, and then the women's tag will be 10 minutes. I think the Reigns Owens matches gets a lot of time. I think they really, that'll be a 20-minute match. So I don't know. I think they have enough stuff to fill it. You don't need to give me a some goofy triple threat match where we know who the winner is going to be.
Yeah, I can see
that. But maybe they do that. Who knows? Maybe they do that.
And I guess the only reason why I was asking that is because, depending on the order of some of these matches, it might help figure out who's going to win, the Royal Rumble matches. That's the only reason why I was, kind of thinking that. But we both think Reigns is going to win.
Yeah, maybe. Why do you think that? What you're thinking there? You said you think that the order of the matches may dictate who wins the Royal Rumble. What's your reasoning there?
Well, I think, well, two. One, like if Roman Reigns were to lose early in the night, he might enter the Royal Rumble. And then if they want to set up, Goldberg versus Reigns still as one of your, main event matches possibly for WrestleMania, you could have Roman Reigns end the night and still with all the fans being booing, you could have Roman Reigns, win the Royal Rumble, face, Goldberg, and that's how you get that match there. I know it's the hated idea, but that was supposed to be your match last year before COVID, and they might still want to go back to that. I mean,
we're hearing. Here's the thing: we're hearing that one of the things that I read this week, the dirt sheets, whatever. Half of them they're half right, half wrong.
like the weather.
Is like the weather. Hey, don't say anything. One of my best friends is a meteorologist, but so they're saying that Goldberg and Cena are going to have a big role in WrestleMania. They're going to have one of the biggest matches in WrestleMania. So,
Peacock buys.
We'll see. So the idea of Goldberg winning, unfortunately, I think is absolutely a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, to your theory about Reigns losing and then winning the Royal Rumble match, I think is interesting. I think it'd be more likely that if Reigns lost, he would win like the Elimination Chamber or whatever to get another rematch. Or it'd be Owens having the title for like a month and then, then losing it, being the definition of a transitional champion. So, a lot of different ways that it can go for sure.
All right. McIntyre versus Goldberg. I think it's more of the idea if we both hope McIntyre wins. I guess there's always a chance that Goldberg wins, but I guess the other part of this is always based on the promo on Monday, which we can get into Raw a little bit later on the ups and downs of that disaster of a program. Do we think, once again, does The Miz cash in and we finally get rid of the Money in the Bank? Or are we holding on to that for something later on down the line so we still have that as something to dangle in?
Can we do this?
Never
Can we
asked that
have
question
him?
again.
Can we have him cash in, lose it, and then leave the WWE for a couple months? Like
Okay.
he needs a carrot. He needs to. He's fine in the ring. He's good on the mic, but whatever he's doing with this character with him and Morrison is fucking terrible, and they need to get rid of it. That being said, if you're ever gonna have him cash in, the problem is it's such a big story on their show that I think they're going to keep it going. I think as painful as this is, I think they're going to keep it going. I think he's going to pretend to cash it in and not cash it in. I don't see him because are you going to have him go into a big WrestleMania match? Is that what they're setting up? So I don't know. Maybe I think he cashes in and loses at some point, but I can't see him cashing this in and winning this title at any point. It doesn't make any sense.
Now, one match that's not on the WWE website, but they did say it was a match on Smackdown this week, is Sasha versus Carmella. Most people think that the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble could be someone on the SmackDown side, setting up Sasha versus, either a rematch with Bayley against Bianca Belair, or maybe somebody coming up from the NXT roster, which we can talk about in a minute. But do you agree with me that due to the fact, of course, she's a much better wrestler and personality, Sasha will retain the title if this match actually happens?
I hope so. I freaking hope so. I think Carmella's thing has been, okay. And I think that she is okay. She's okay in the ring. She's been very good on the mic. Her character has been, pretty solid. But she's not at this level, right? Like she's not at the level to be, the women's main event for WrestleMania. I don't think they'll be the main event this year or anything like that, but I think they'll have a significant presence. And it's just Carmella's not there. She's just not. And so unless you have her win and then Sasha wins at some point, I just can't see Carmella headlining a WrestleMania show at this point. Maybe down the line, but I just can't see it now. That's just my opinion. People may like her. I totally get it, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think she's gotten a lot better in the ring, but I just don't think when it comes to the biggest stage that they have, I don't think she's the right person at this point in her career to be there. WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match, a match that I just think they have to do because they have to do something with these people. Charlotte and Asuka versus Baszler and Nia Jax. They've really just done a horrible job with this feud. Nia Jax, the most unsafe worker maybe in the business right now, or if you tell her that, she calls us all whiners. I don't know what they're going to do. They decided that, this past week on Smackdown, that the Riot Squad, who won many matches in a row, they lose in a non-title match. I guess that's over. Do you keep title on Charlotte and Oscar, continuing the idea that, partners who just don't help each other because they're involved in other storylines? Or do you put the titles back on Baszler and Nia Jax?
Well, here's the thing. I always say, what's the better question? And the better question is, do I care? And the answer is no. So whatever you do, you do. But what Nia Jax did to poor Dana Brooke, slamming her on her head, was reckless and irresponsible. I'm not a professional wrestler, Corey. You're not a professional wrestler. She could come on and say, you marks, you're not pro wrestlers. Totally get it. Totally get it. Totally get it. We've been watching wrestling for 35 years, right? And a lot of people have been watching wrestling for a long time. We know when a spot has been botched, right? We all know when a spot has been botched. And that was a botched spot. The way she fell down on her head was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah.
And we've seen this time and time again with her, with being sloppy. Look at Raquel Gonzalez when she does her powerbomb. It looks badass. She's completely safe with it, where she holds the woman in the air and makes sure, she drives her down to make it look good, but she gives the woman a second to, to brace herself for the fall with tucking her chin in and stuff. And like Nia Jax picked Dana Brooke up and just slammed her down. That was it. She picked her up and just slammed her down. And she doesn't even do like intense moves. Imagine if she was like one of these women who tries to do like these big time moves. It'd be a mess.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't get the Nia Jax thing. I thought she had some potential at first. She's had some. You talk about someone who's been protected. She has been protected as much as Charlotte has. When's the last time she lost a match? Got pinned. She rarely ever loses. She rarely ever gets pinned. She's terrible. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that being said, I think Asuka and Charlotte probably win the match, and then eventually Lacey Evans and Ric Flair go for the tag titles at some point.
Oh wow! I was gonna say I hope they keep the titles because hopefully at some point we find out that the winner of the Dusty Cup for the women gets a shot at the tag team title, and you transition to whoever wins that, who goes and actually defends it, all brands. But
yeah, I mean, I think this Corey. I mean, is there a very good chance Nia and Shayna win so that we have this Lacey Evans Charlotte feud? I mean, that's where they're going.
Oh, wonderful.
I mean, I think the match will be fine. The feud has been, we all know, but I think Lacey Evans has improved in the ring, and I think being with someone like Charlotte, I think could help her. So, and she's got they have similar body styles and stuff. So I do think they could eventually, if they give them enough time, could have a good match. So, we'll see. I could see them losing and Charlotte moving on and Asuka moving on to face Alexa the Demon at some point.
Interesting, D. So before we get to the final two matches, just want to quickly bring up that the return of WWE Backstage. Now, you would ask, why should we care about a show that was canceled? Yes, Renee Paquette is back. That's nice. We've all enjoyed, her podcast. Those who've listened to Oral Sessions, she's had some interesting guests on. But the big thing that they've announced is, as a hook for you to watch with this maybe one time coming back, is they're going to announce the first two people in the Women's Royal Rumble, 1 and 2, and the number 30 pick in the Men's Royal Rumble. And Jay, one of the things that we've all done over the years, I think you even part of it when you came back in the day in the Bronx, top of the food chain, as you would used to say, that we would, put a couple of pennies on it and, bet on who would win. You'd all get numbers. half the fun is, you know, finding out who is each number at that moment.
You're getting mad that you picked the number and it's some jobber. You're like, oh, well, that, you know, here's my money or whatever. Yeah, it was a blast.
So how much does it take away? I mean, of course, it's your favorite event of the year. It's awesome time, but how much does it affect a little bit of your fun of watching the event, knowing who's 1 and 2 on the women, knowing who number 30 is? Does it affect
the 1 and 2 doesn't bother me. The 1 and 2 doesn't bother me because they come out so soon. It is that anticipation of 30. There is that anticipation of 30 of we don't know who it's going to be. It could be anybody, you know, especially, you know, legends coming back or free agent guys or whatever. So you always are like, you know, this year, right? Could it be, you know, Jay White? Could it be him? Right? Like, who could it be? But we're gonna know. so I think the 30 bothers me. The 1 and 2 doesn't bother me, but the 30 bothers me. But again, I mean, WWE, they're a content company, right? Why would you watch backstage unless they're giving you a gimmick? You know, I mean, I'd much rather watch Talking Smack with Heyman and Kayla and them having interviews. There's no doubt about it. And Raw Talk with R-Truth is tight. They need to get him off that show. So, but anyway, so, you know, they got to give you a hook for backstage, and that's the hook.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm more than likely I'm not going to watch the show. I watched a couple episodes here and there.
When is it? When is it? I don't even know when it is.
Saturday night. I don't know what time it is.
But absolutely not. We can't go anywhere because it's a pandemic. I'm still not going to watch the show. I think Saturday nights usually maybe I'll be busy or something. There's no way I'm watching that show. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, will it get a couple more people to most likely watch? I could see that. I mean, I do think it's interesting that, you know, CM Punk's not on the show because they said he's quarantining for 14 days for something, and that's led to
I think he said it. He said he's doing a movie or something, and so they're my buddy works on like TV sets or whatever, and they're pretty strict with like quarantining and stuff like that. So same thing. Alex Shelley, for a different reason, wasn't able to do the Hard to Kill pay-per-view because of his other job. So it makes sense why he wasn't on there. So, but he could have been on Zoom. Like, couldn't he be on Zoom? I don't know.
I mean, interesting. I guess they're all doing it live. Maybe could have done a Zoom segment, but so it's interesting. I do think it's interesting that maybe as a result of knowing the women's 1 and 2, that there could be a big surprise for 30 for the women. Maybe, you know, a returning Ronda Rousey or a Rhea Ripley or someone big. That it's interesting that they didn't tell you who number 30 is for the women, where you always have the rumors of, you know, we could have a return of, I mean, I think a return of Becky Lynch, I think, is way too soon after the pregnancy. But, you know, a Ronda Rousey possibly, you know, maybe returning.
I mean, Becky Lynch gonna be out there rolling her kid out there with the stroller. I don't see that. Be a mom for a little bit longer. You got plenty of time. I do see her maybe making like, you know, that always at Raw after WrestleMania. I could totally see her coming back then because she had the baby when December, right? So it'll be,
I believe so, yeah. 5
months, and you know, I could see her, you know, taking care of the baby and training still. You know, she's a beast. I could see her. Well, who knows? The pure speculation, but certainly not the Royal Rumble. But yeah, there's plenty of candidates. There's Tessa Blanchard. There's Ronda Rousey. Yeah. There's, you know, Rhea Ripley. There's, you know, Mercedes Martinez. There's Io Shirai. I mean, any of the NXT women, you know, free agents that are out there. Taya Valkyrie. You know, it could be a lot of different people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the 30th woman, you know, could be more interesting than the 30th guy, because there's not that many big time free agent, you know, men out there really anymore.
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
John Cena.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I guess they're not free agents, so they're there already. So I guess
Brock supposedly isn't signed to them, but right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess those guys could be, but yeah, that's fair. I'm thinking more of someone who hasn't been there before, but yeah, you're right. It could be absolutely be one of those two.
So quickly, as we go a little bit long on this conversation, so we have 16 people so far on the men's side. We're not going to read them all off for you, For the video people, you'll be able to see the list here. But for the audio people, the big names that we think have a chance: AJ Styles, Edge, Randy Orton, Big E. You want to say possibly because of the pitch they're giving him right now, Cesaro, and Daniel Bryan. Would you agree, Jay? Those are the people who have a legitimate chance who have been named.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And I personally think the guy who we're going to find out on Saturday night or whenever this show is, I think we're going to find out the guy who was supposed to come back on Christmas on SmackDown. I think we find out number 30 is Seth Rollins.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they can do it, right? Because he spent, a month or so with his child. They only wrestle once a week or pay-per-views 2 times. So he'll have plenty of time to be with his child. So, yeah, I could definitely see him coming back 100%. And I think, he would be one of the favorites. I really wonder. I think Edge is the favorite.
Mhm.
I think Edge is the plus 175. I don't think anybody is a minus no one's like a heavy favorite, but I think Edge at plus money, plus 150 would be. And I know there's actually some site where they actually put this stuff on the site. I don't know if any of it's legitimate or not. If it was, I would be involved. But
I think Edge and Daniel Bryan are your two favorites.
Yeah, I would say Edge a stronger favorite because I think with Daniel Bryan, they could just kind of tell the story on why he could be defending Owen's honor, and then they do a program based off that. Edge needs with Edge, it's like that redemption story of winning the Royal Rumble and then headlining WrestleMania. Bryan doesn't really need a redemption story. He just needs a story with range, which I think they can tell without Bryan having to win a Royal Rumble. So I think Edge is, to me, the absolute favorite. But who the hell knows? It could go either way.
I agree. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes. I think it's one of those stories that when we talk on next week's show, I would not be surprised if Edge or Daniel Bryan won, but sometimes the most obvious choice isn't always what they go with. I mean, past years, Chris Benoit was the obvious choice. They went with it. Other years, you don't expect Sheamus to win, and Sheamus winds up winning the title.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they go chalk a lot, though.
Yeah.
I feel like they go chalk a lot, but you're right. I mean, they might want to switch it up this year. But in a year of uncertainty, and then their first year on Peacock and wanting to get people to subscribe to that, and so I don't know if they're going to want to take any chances. I think they're going to want to have a real headline, making main events. So, and I think Edge could bring that, right? Edge against Drew would be a fantastic kind of headline type of match, and they could tell a great story too. And the match probably would be pretty solid as well. So I think that's the way they go. But what?
Or Edge versus Reigns, or Edge versus Owens, the two Canadians. I mean, Edge goes against all these guys is interesting stories.
Yeah, I think Edge versus Drew would be a really good story because then Bryan and Reigns, I think, could tell a really good story on the other side. Mm-hmm. That being said, it'll probably be Goldberg. So, all right.
Exactly.
Moving on to the women.
All right. So the women's match, we've already mentioned a couple of people that we could see possibly returning, like I said, Ronda Rousey, Rhea Ripley making her debut. Oh, one person we did not mention. Do you think we see Damian Priest debut in the Rumble, or is he after Rumble / WrestleMania season?
Gosh, I don't know. I think, was he in the Rumble last year? A bunch of NXT guys were in it last year. Was he in it last year?
No, I think Johnny Gargano and Escobar, I think, might have been in it.
And I think Adam Cole was in it too.
Yeah, maybe.
He might be in it. I don't like the idea of him being in it if eventually they're going to build him up as some star on one of these shows. Mm-hmm. So I would like for, unless he's in it and then is one of the main 4 guys.
Right.
So I'd prefer that they didn't, unless they really haven't eliminated a bunch of guys. But They really could go either way, but there's plenty of guys that they have where they don't need to have him go in. But I think if they do it, they're going to do it to make him look like a star or what have you.
I could see that. So the women's Royal Rumble, like I said, we're going to know 1 and 2 for the men. Women the women we're going to know 1 and 2, which I very easily see them doing the Bianca Belair and Bailey story, making them 1 and 2, and have them basically Bailey running away from her for the whole entire match, and Bianca just basically killing everybody, eliminating as many people as possible, like she did last year or the year before. I could really see Bianca being the star of this match once again. I think Alexa has a chance to win this. Like I said, Bianca, Bailey, Charlotte. You got to give Nia Jax because of her family, connections. If Rhea Ripley's in the match, I think you give her a shot. If you have the returning Ronda Rousey because of how big.
Here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say. Prediction. Nobody on this list wins the Royal Rumble women's match.
Really?
Yeah.
Rhea Ripley?
Yeah. We'll go Rhea Ripley. We'll go maybe Tessa Blanchard. We're going to say someone not on this list wins the match. And I'm probably going to be way wrong. But if I were a gambling man, which I am, I would put my money on the field. None of these women. I put my money on the field.
All right, that's interesting. So next week you will be either gloating, and when you go tell us the beer of the week, which we'll be finding out momentarily what this week's beer of the week is, if there is one. And
there always is.
There always is. So I'm gonna go with somebody. Whoever wins, I will say this: whoever wins, they're setting up the challenger for Sasha Banks on the Smackdown side, because I think it's a lot easier to set up a challenger for Asuka from the non-winner, because of the fact that you have Alexa, you have Charlotte, you have Nia, people who she's already got semi-feuds with already. And it'll be a lot easier with the Elimination Chamber to have people in there on a Raw side than, I think, setting up, like, I don't like this person now when it comes to Sasha, where I don't think you want to turn to Bianca. And the Bailey thing, if it's going to happen, it's just going to happen by her winning,
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the idea of you got the 4 horsewomen and you got 3 of them involved here, possibly. Sasha, I think, is going to have the title. Is this a year that Charlotte isn't going for the title or whatever? Is this a year that Bailey isn't going for the title? Do you have Sasha and Asuka as the kind of headliners, and then have new blood, a Bianca Belair, a Shayna Baszler, another, kind of big time person in there. I think Baszler actually did she wrestle? Was she fought for the title last year? Yeah. So maybe not Baszler, but, definitely a Belair or someone like that,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time for them. They have the 4 horsemen already and Asuka, right? So they have the 5 of the best women's wrestlers in the world. They know they can go that route whenever they want to go that route, and they sure should have, right? How many times did we see Asuka against Sasha this year? I think now they did it with Carmella during this little run here. It's time to have one of these other women branch out and win this Royal Rumble match. That could be a free agent, or it could be someone there. The other thing, obviously, is if it's a Tessa Blanchard or someone like that, that might upset the women's locker room, right? Like, who's she? So, it could be more of a Rhea Ripley, or someone like that. So, yeah, so we'll see. But I think both Royal Rumble matches are very intriguing with who they choose to go with. I think the women's is more up in the air than the men's. I think the men's, we kind of have a pretty good idea on a couple of people, and I don't see them deviating from that. Daniel Bryan, Edge, Orton, if they want to go there. I think the women's could be a lot of different people.
Yeah, I agree. And Felipe Malicio saying a hello in the chat. Hey, gents. And always check him out on the Total Basis podcast with Sean. You can also check out Felipe on the Total Basis, did a special podcast covering the this week's Hall of Fame baseball podcast with Dan Butler this week. They did a hour plus talking about the whole entire situation of nobody getting in and next year's ballot. So you should definitely check them out on the Baseball Life podcast.
Oh, wait, for the record, I like that nobody got in. The Schilling thing aside, we don't need to talk about that. It shows that that the Hall of Fame means something if people don't get in every year, right? This isn't the Hall of Very Good. This is the Hall of Fame. These are the best people. So I like the fact that no one got in this year, and it shows you how much it means and how hard it is. Now, obviously, you can talk about Bonds, Clemens, whatever, but I still like that fact.
Absolutely, and Jeff Kent should be in there. But that's for another time. But
Jeff Kent, go ahead.
Great baseball player.
He was great. I don't know if he did.
Just he hated the media, so they're holding it against him. But so let's, like I said, on paper, if we're talking about this, looks like it should be a pretty good show. I think we did a lot better job talking about this card than WWE did over the last week. If you watched Raw,
I mean, I learned some people who are on a pay-per-view on a Royal Rumble from doing this with you. I didn't know some of these people, so yeah, I learned a lot as well.
All right, so we're gonna go a little quick here because, like I said, we took quite a bit of time on the preview because, like I said, it's one of the big 4 pay-per-views. Let's quickly on Raw. What do you think about the Edge promo? Me personally, so it's Edge since coming back has been one of the best promos in the business. He really put his heart out there. I mean, I think they did a terrible job of not promoting this ahead of time. And you can't tell me that they didn't know he was going to be available to either do the Rumble, available to do the promo spot until the day of. So I mean, this would have been a hook for people to go and watch because he was in the best match of all time apparently. With Randy Orton the best match ever. However,
the greatest match ever. No, I agree. They should have promoted it. It was weird. I absolutely would have fast forwarded if they didn't. I was like, because I do my 3-hour run 30 minutes. And so I was fast forwarding, and they're like, "Oh, Edge is gonna be on." I'm like, "What?" So that was one of the only things on Raw that I watched. It was the best thing on Raw. Edge has been a great promo for many, many years. I think that's what really elevated him to the next level. Back in the day, how good of a promo he was and how good he was with this character. And now he's a trained actor and things like that. So I think he's become even better and more real. And that's why it's tough to watch WWE, because you hear a promo from Edge and then you hear Miz and Morrison or some of the other goofs they have on there, and it's like, this is a different show. It's a totally different show. And I'm not talking about a show where you have characters and then you have different kind of characters. You have more of a goofy character and more of a real character. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying the Miz and Morrison are completely different, in terms of the competition part of it and how they're just geeks, as Brian Alvarez calls them. They're just dorks. And then you have this guy cutting this promo from his heart, talking about the sacrifices he's made and coming back and training, all this stuff. And it's like, is this the same show? There's no way this is the same fucking show. There's no way. And so, the Edge promo was great. It was great. And Corey, I think he's going to win. I mean, based on that promo and, the spots that they've given him, since he's come back. I mean, they hyped the whole pay-per-view around his match with Orton. They did so much storytelling with unfortunately we had the pandemic, but the hype for that Edge Orton feud was absolutely tremendous. And that was all them, right? It was all Orton and Edge, playing off of each other. So I don't know. I think this is the time for Edge to get his. And the other thing, Corey, I don't think Edge has actually headlined a WrestleMania. I know he's had a bunch of world title matches. I don't think he's ever been the last match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I don't think he has.
No. So you know what? Shit. Is he not the biggest star they got? One of the couple biggest stars they got? If you're ever going to do it, this is the time. Absolutely.
It's a very good idea. So let's move on to the good. I'm going to try to talk about good stuff. So I had on the rundown, final build for Drew and Goldberg. We're going to pass by that. SmackDown, I just want to highlight some couple of good little things. Sasha versus Reggie. I thought it was really done well. I know that WWE does not do men on women matches. If we want to see that, go back and watch, Lucha Underground or some stuff every once in a while on Impact. But the way they did this, I thought was really well done. And I don't know if we'll ever see Reggie in an actual wrestling match, but the guy is one hell of an athlete, and it was one hell of a gymnastics performance, I guess, the best
Yeah, I
way to
mean,
put it.
he seemed like a trained gymnast. I mean, he was fine all over the place. But yeah, no, I thought it was solid for, especially for a man woman match. I mean, Sasha could carry me and you in the ring, so we know how good she is. But yeah, no, it was good. It was fine.
Yeah, I say because a lot of weeks we don't get a chance to talk about SmackDown, and also I just want to also highlight how successful they've been with highlighting the mid card, as Raw has been a disaster when it comes to the mid card, and basically getting rid of all of your stables 10 minutes after you start them. I think what they've done with Cesaro and Daniel Bryan over the last couple of weeks, and Nakamura to a smaller extent, giving you the hope that maybe they can, besides Daniel Bryan, most likely none of these guys who I just said are going to win the Rumble. But the way that they've structured Cesaro last couple of weeks of beating two former champions, this week with Ziggler and last week with Daniel Bryan, I think it gives you the idea that there's layers to the show that aren't just Roman Reigns and Owens. And on a B pay-per-view coming up, you could actually have slight believability that Cesaro versus a Roman Reigns or Nakamura versus a Roman Reigns. Well, either one will be a very good match, but there's a slight believability that they could actually be competitive. And that's something that Raw is not doing.
I agree 1000%. If you're a wrestler on Raw and you're watching SmackDown, you are thinking, man, I'd like to be there. Yeah. Right? Like I would like to be on that show. So the obstacle course was real goofy with Bianca Belair and Bayley. And usually I hate that shit like that. But like it was kind of funny. Like it was pretty funny. And comedy is very hard in wrestling. Watch Impact, right? Comedy can be wacky, but I felt like Bayley was great in it. And Bianca Belair, obviously, she's a great athlete or whatever. So she was funny. But when Bianca Belair lifted Otis up and Jesus Christ, she's
one strong woman.
Good God. But yeah, no, it was great. It was fun. Bayley got mad. I think Bayley's like really coming into her own as like this kind of goofy heel who knows she's kind of in on the act, and she's really very okay with who she is. Like you could tell that she's very comfortable playing the character that she's playing. And I also think she wants to put these women over. Like I think she wants to put Bianca over. She loves Peyton Royce. So I think she wants to put these women over. She's a made person. She could lose every match. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I know it was goofy and people may not like it. And comedy wrestling can be silly, but I actually thought it was like kind of funny. How she changed the whole obstacle course and she still beat her. I don't know. I thought it was actually pretty good.
So our favorite day of the week, Wednesday night, you had AEW, NXT, MLW. Unfortunately, to get the short end of the stick this week. All I'll say is Caribbean strap match, not my cup of tea. Actually, Filthy Islands, I think 2 weeks from now, but I think next week might be slightly better. But AEW we'll start with quickly. Positives we're going to try to talk about this week. Jungle Boy versus Dax, I thought was one of the best matches in quite a while. I think Jungle Boy in a couple of years could be a huge star.
Okay. All right.
All right. You're gonna.
All right. First of all, the AAA cruiserweight match with Laredo Kid and Senshi was actually very good. Right. And Senshi's someone who I think I don't even know if he's really from Brazil or if he's just like a black guy from like Chicago, but they need to give him a push because he's really, really good.
Yeah, that was solid.
Yeah. The strap match, horrible. Savio Vega, come on. But with Jungle Boy, great match. Absolutely. I mean, he has no charisma, Corey. Maybe in terms of his look, and he's a young guy and he's a good-looking kid, and maybe the women like him. I don't know. But in terms of like talking on the mic, he is bland as fucking sandpaper. Like I love that, everyone wants to say he's a star. Brian Alvarez, Russell Observer, everyone wants to pump him up. It was a great match. He's very good in the ring for especially someone who's as young as he is. I think he has that ability. But Corey, let's slow down on Jungle Boy, right? Let's have him cut a promo. I mean, he has no charisma on the mic at all. And I know that that's something you still got to work on and stuff like that. And AEW doesn't do the thing that WWE does. Oh, you can't talk on the mic, so that's it. Like with Cesaro for years. Cesaro would have been a 2-time AEW world champion, or at least a TNT champion. So I understand that. And I think Jungle Boy's got a lot of ability. But and he wrestled a great match for MJF. I think the potential is there. I'm saying let's slow down. Let's see how he is on the mic a little bit first. Let's see how his character continues to develop, and then I will get into he's going to be a star. Whatever. Let's wait a little bit. Man, that's my opinion though.
Yeah, Jackie Andy from You Don't Know Jackie podcast. He said give it time. He's not he's still in his early 20s. I mean, I think it's the second best match I've seen with him. I mean, the match between I think at Double or Nothing this past year with him and MJF is most likely still the best match I've seen.
Yeah, I think that was the best match on the show. I think we said that was the best match on the show too, right? I think so. It was a great match.
Yeah, so I think that's mostly still the best match.
The one thing Jungle Boy does that's good, and they're pairing him up with good people. His matches are not spot fests, and he even wrestles kind of a mat-based style with his submission move. So he's adding layers to his game. He clearly loves wrestling and is developing and getting better very quickly. So his potential is limitless. I agree with that. But we gotta see where he is on the mic. We gotta see some other things. But could he be a TNT champion next year? Maybe the end of this year, whatever. Maybe. And I think, there was this report last year that came out that AEW looks at him as a future building block, because you have the Bucks, you have Omega, you have Moxley. I think those guys are all in their mid-30s. And listen, mid to late 30s. And listen, we've seen it now. Sheamus is 42. He looks like $1 million. I mean, these guys can go. AJ's mid-40s. I mean, these guys can go for a while. Jericho's 50, right? Nice job in the Lion Salt this week. So you've got guys who are older and still pushing, but you are going to need, the Bucks, I think it's Nick Jackson's had some injuries lately. Yeah, their style is going to catch up to them. You cannot continue to wrestle this style. Omega's style is going to catch up to him. Moxley wrestles a little safer, but he wrestles these crazy matches, but he does wrestle a little safer, but eventually, so they need to develop stars. And I think Jungle Boy, MJF, Darby Allin are probably some stars of the future. But let's wait on Jungle Boy a little bit. Let's have him cut a promo that I'm not going to fall asleep to.
I totally understand that. Like I said, not everything on AEW was great this week. I mean, the Hoodlum program with promo with Sting and Darby Allin was nothing to write home about. But like I said, we're trying to stay positive. I think that this next week's show with Beach Break, I thought the build for it was solid. I didn't think it was great. I mean, I've never been a fan of weddings angles to begin with, except for Miss Elizabeth and Randy Savage. I almost said Randy Orton by accident there. Oh yeah, but
yeah, I mean, so all-time great wedding segment. And that's why they've done it. The first one was so good. Let's keep doing it, and then they've been shit since. Although I think which one was the one with it? Who did Stephanie McMahon marry? I thought it was pretty good. Some of them have been good, but
was it Test or was it triple? I think it was Test, and we finding out.
Yeah.
At the end, it was at the wedding chapel with.
Yeah. So yeah, some of them end up being pretty creatively good. I think Vince Russo should book all weddings. That should be his only job. You're gonna tell us how this wedding should go, because it's been bad pretty much ever since Vince Russo. But I felt like this show was almost like a placeholder. Essentially, like, you had the Jungle Boy Dax Hardwood match. Again, a great pairing, a great person to pair him up with too. But anyway, so I felt like this show was mostly a let's get ready for next week.
But you know what?
Which is fine, and the ratings reflected that, right? The NXT was very close to AEW in the ratings. I know we're going to talk about NXT in a second, but yeah, I felt like this is more of a placeholder show. Right, we did have Shaq on there.
Oh God, please. Let's just get through that, and we'll not talk about that this week. Maybe in a future episode, maybe never. But Jay, just quickly, the three big matches on that show. You got the 6-man tag. You've got the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega versus John Moxley, Pac, and Phoenix, because they did the angle last week of taking out Pentagon Jr. or Pentagon L0, whatever they're calling him this week, depending on
Pentagon Jr. is fine.
You've got Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker, which I think most likely on paper should be the best match in the women's division they've ever had. Cross fingers. I
don't know about that. I think it's among
biggest stars.
It's among the most hyped. I don't think it'll be Sheeta and Thunder Rosa from All Out. I don't think it'll be that level quality, but
you might be right.
I think Britt Baker,
right?
Britt Baker is tremendous on the mic, tremendous with her character. She's one of the best characters maybe in pro wrestling right now today. Now we got to see how she does in the ring.
Sure,
this isn't gonna be a 8-minute match against Shauna.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna be no disrespect to her, but like I never heard her talking in my life. It's gonna be a match against a star women's wrestler, and is a very highly regarded match. If this match isn't good, it's not gonna be Thunder Rosa's fault.
Right.
If this match isn't good, it's gonna be Britt Baker's fault. Because with AEW, their women's division is treated like the old, the old European Championship division in WWE. I can't think of a better term, because I'd say the Cruiserweight division, but those guys were so good they tried to bury it, but they couldn't because they had Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
It's treated like the redheaded stepchild of AEW. I mean, let's call it what it is. Mm-hmm. So this match almost has to be good, right? Like this is not a title match. This is just a grudge match, and it's gonna need time. And so I am very curious to see how it goes. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be a good match. I think Britt Baker needs to have like a hard hitting style. I think that seems to have worked for her. That match against Sheeta she had, where they just beat the shit out of each other. I think that'll work well. But yeah, I'm very interested to see how this will go and how long they'll give it. Are they going to give it 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, it could be interesting. I mean, and I think that, I'd love to see Thunder Rosa win the match, but I think the fact she's not a contracted star, and I think Britt Baker is more than likely the future of that company, I think Britt will win. And then the other big match is the Battle Royal, setting up the next contender for Revolution. I think that they more than likely told us that the Bucks are winning, and they're setting up Bucks versus Good Brothers. I think those three big matches, are a good enticing thing for the show for next week.
It is. And, I always complain about some of these matches are too long. I wasn't a huge fan of that Eddie Kingston Archer match. I thought it was slow.
I thought the ending was bad, but I thought the match itself wasn't bad.
I thought it was fine. But this next week is going to be a long match time. That is going to be a time to have long matches. It's going to be a pay-per-view style quality type of show. Mm-hmm. Again, they have, Battle Royale, some goofy stuff, but I think that's going to be the time where you have some long matches, some 10, 15, 20-minute matches maybe. And yeah, how they hold the audience attention. And it'll be, like I said, we'll see. But I think that's where you have a long matches, pay-per-view style show.
So Jay, not to shortchange NXT, but the big tease that we got this week, well, it was twofold. One, we finally met the number one contender for the Cruiserweight, the NXT 205 Live title champion, and then he got taken out as soon as we met him. Curtis Stallion,
Was he talking about tumbleweeds
tumbleweeds or
and
driving.
driving through Texas and tumbleweed? What was he talking about?
I don't know,
I
but
don't. That was. I mean, Mackenzie Mitchell's. I really like her, by the way. I mean, she's attractive and all that stuff, but I also think she's very good. She really gets in the wrestlers' faces or whatever. And I thought her sit down interview was she did well. Kurt, what did I learn about him? He's from Texas and he drives and tumbleweeds.
no, she's
They could have done a little better job with that, but I think he has the personality of, I think Troy the dog has more of a personality, than he does in terms of getting himself over.
Yeah,
So I don't. He seems bland as milk toast, but maybe he's good in the ring. We'll see. They definitely tease Escobar maybe to move up and out of the cruiserweight division, which I think is the best idea. But we'll see what happens.
That's what I wanted to talk about quickly before, and like I said, we moving on quick here, but the idea of Cross versus Escobar. Do you think this is something that we see at the February pay-per-view, or is this just a time filler for a week where he just basically Escobar gets put in his place where it's just a 2-second mauling, or do you think?
I think they look at Escobar as like a big time guy. I mean, how many times has the cruiserweight champion been? I mean, when Leo Rush was champion, he had very good matches against Angel Garza and things like that, but he wasn't like in all these segments. You know what I mean? He's one of the bigger heels in NXT for sure. So, yeah, I think it's a takeover pay-per-view match. It is weird, heel versus heel. But I mean, whatever route they want to go, I guess it's fine. I think Scarlett is compelling, and I think Escobar is compelling, and I think Karrion Kross is boring, but you don't need him to build a feud. He just says TikTok at the end of Scarlett's promo. So that's all they need. And so Escobar could do the heavy lifting. And yeah, it could, I mean, heel versus heel matches are fine. I just hope this isn't Escobar getting destroyed. That I do worry about that. So
And next week we've got Ciampa and I always keep on saying Ciampa Gargano. We got Ciampa and Thatcher versus Undisputed Era, which should be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good match. Yeah, I think it'll be a good match. We'll see where they go. The Undisputed Era, to me, I've continued to say, and I'll continue to say, they need something else. But I think Undisputed Era win and eventually go against Lorcan and Birch for the titles.
Interesting. I'm not sure if I fully agree with that, but you very well might be right. We'll talk maybe more about that next week. But Jay, we spoke about a lot of interesting things. It's the time of the show where I rest my voice for 30 seconds, and you let people know how they could follow us on all the social medias and different platforms, and plug the Life Group. And you take yourself off mute.
I am on mute. Yeah. So off mute now. Yeah, we are Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Instagram and we are on Twitter. The lovely Jackie Andy controls our Instagram. I know nothing about Instagram. As my wife can attest, I'm very bad at it. I have 2 Instagram accounts, Corey. Did you know that? And I'm horrible. I'm horrible at both. So we got that, and but we do control the Twitter, and I think I'm gonna try. There's no football this week, so I'm gonna lock into the Royal Rumble, maybe have a delicious beverage, hopefully not fall asleep during the Goldberg match, and maybe live tweet. So
it'll be a quick nap then.
It'll be. Maybe I'll do like a workout during it, and I'll get gas like Goldberg does. Now, God bless him; he's 50, he's in great shape for his age. So yeah, at Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. And yeah, we're part of the Life Group podcast. So obviously this is Wrestle Life. If you're watching us live, we are part of a great group of podcasts. We've got Total Bases on Sunday. Felipe and Sean do Total Bases on Sunday. Dong City is as Henry Maldonado. Tuesdays we've got the Audible Super Bowl's coming up. As you see, I'm not wearing a Packers hat. I still support my Packers, but doesn't match with my
Is that one?
go to sleep club shirt. So although Newcastle is probably gonna get relegated, so I gotta figure out another team to pick. So yeah, so the Audible, we know Deshaun Watson asked for a trade, so very, very fascinating. The Step Back basketball podcast looks like they're playing games, so that's great. My parlay got screwed because Dennis Schroeder scored too many points last night, so great. You've got us, Workshoot Wrestling Podcast on Thursday, so you've got out of the 7 days, you've got 5 podcasts to listen to, all on different subjects from wrestling to basketball to baseball to football. So check us out.
And of course, there's one other podcast that we listen to religiously every week. Jay, I'm kind of forgetting what it is, though. Can you go give me a helping hand on that?
You don't know Jackie. You don't know Jackie. With Jackie Endy, Jackie Rachel, Jackie Corey.
Nah, not Jackie Corey.
But yeah, great podcast, great comedy podcast. Check it out.
Yep, every Wednesday-ish, we come out with a new podcast. And the next couple of weeks, we will doing one wrestling-related one on the David Arquette documentary. So we will be sure to let people know when that one comes out. And we'll pass that along and most likely try to put that in our feed as well. So more people get, a chance to hear that and all the great work that the ladies of the You Don't Know Jackie podcast do.
Absolutely.
Our comedy podcast, always great work by them. Jay, final thing of the week before we call it a day. Impact Wrestling had one of their bigger free agents come back. We spoke about at the time that Impact did a good job of doing a farewell for the Rascals. 2 of them went to WWE. They're now MSK. But Trey Miguel made a surprise return as the 4th man on, I guess, an 8-man tag this past week. Jay, I guess you got a chance to watch it. I didn't, but Trey Miguel is back. I think he's the most talented of the 3. What's your thoughts?
I don't agree with that, but
well, at least upside of being a single star.
Yeah, I mean he's a little bigger than the 3. Yeah, so maybe. Yeah, I mean he got the pin. It was a big deal that he was back. He struggled taking his jacket off on his entrance. That was funny.
Okay, that's not good.
It was just funny. He was like trying to take his jacket off the whole time. But anyway, yeah, he won the match. So I mean that, but also could be a one-off as well. Could be him trying to figure out like what he wants to do with himself and maybe eventually going to NXT. It always was one of those things where it seemed like, Dez and Wentz are together, and then Trey may do his own thing. So, listen, Impact needs bodies. They need people who have, and what the one thing that can be frustrating with Impact, and I'm not, the longest years of watching Impact, but it seems like sometimes they miss out on their guys before they reach where their potential is. And the Rascals are a great example. They look at the hype they're getting with the Dusty Cup. And I think they will probably make the finals. They just won the quarterfinals or the semifinals. So I think they'll probably reach the finals once they explain what MSK is, which would be great if they took time to do that. But clearly they're hyping them up, and they think they're telling the audience these guys are a big deal. And they are. They've wrestled great matches. So maybe Trey Miguel's like, I've got more to do here. Maybe he has more to do. I don't know what he's like on the mic. I don't know his character development and stuff like that. So he also might need some more work. I think he's a pretty young guy. Him, Myron Reed, all the, those guys I think are maybe in their mid-20s. So, by the way, just a total aside, Chris Bay, Tommy Dreamer, the storyline where Tommy Dreamer is going to wrestle Rich Swann on his birthday, on his 50th birthday. Rich Swann said, "You're a legend in wrestling." Blah blah blah. So I want for your 50th birthday, I want to challenge you for the Impact title.
Whatever. Yeah, no surrender. Right?
Yeah, no surrender. And so Chris Bay comes out and says, my birthday is the same day, and I'm gonna be twice your age. I'm gonna be twice as young as you.
Oh my God.
And I was like, how young? I said, how long? Chris Bay's 24 years old. He's 24 years old, and he's this good already. Like, I am 41, and I'm not that good at anything. It is incredible. You talk about someone who has potential. I know we're talking about Jungle Boy, right? You talk about someone who has potential. He's good on the mic. He's really good in the ring. He can tell a story in the match. That guy could be a freaking superstar. That guy could be an absolute superstar. So we'll see what happens there. But anyway, back to Trey Miguel. Yeah, we'll see. Impact needs him. They need big time guys. So or at least guys with the potential to be big time. So, we'll see if he's it. All right. So not much else, but beer of the week. So friends of ours who they're from Texas. They moved to Chicago like we did. And so they went back to Texas for the holidays, and they brought back a bunch of beers for us, which was nice. And we were in New York and brought back beers for them, a little beer exchange. And so one of the beers it's called, it's from Three Nations Brewing. It's in Farmers Branch, Texas. Never fucking heard of Farmers Branch, Texas. But Three Nations Brewery, the beer is called Mango Smash IPA. And I'm usually a hazy IPA guy. So for you guys who know IPAs, you probably know what I'm talking about. This is a little different. It's more of a kind of a classic standard IPA, which I don't really drink that much anymore. And it's really, really, really good. So Three Nations Brewing, Mango Smash IPA from our friends from Texas. So very good beer. If you're ever in Farmers Branch, Texas. Sorry, I read that wrong. If you're ever in Farmers Branch, Texas, check them out.
Wow, you were almost as good as reading that as I was reading a Dr. Seuss soliloquy on the You Don't Know Jackie podcast this coming week. So we make a really good team.
Oh, stop. Check out that beer. And I'm not encouraged. Oh, also, great news of the week for myself. And I'm just make it personal for a second.
Sure.
We haven't talked about COVID at all today or this week on the show, which it's been a kind of a, dominating theme of obviously the country, the world. I was reading something about Portuguese soccer and how their leagues are struggling because it's just so insane what it's affected. And so I'm in the 1B category because I'm an educator.
You'll be there for all those students.
And the 1B, yes, absolutely. But the 1B category is like kind of been all over the place in different states. And I'm going to put over our governor, JB Pritzker, because I think he's done a pretty decent job. And I was lucky enough to be the vaccine thing is kind of crazy. It's like eBay back in the day of like, you got to keep clicking on stuff to see if you get one. But I was lucky enough to get one today. So I got my first vaccine shot, and my arm's a little sore, but I feel pretty good. My wife's getting hers tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, hopefully I know that there's strands and people are bugging out about strands. And yeah, I understand that there's still a lot of trepidation and a lot of, hesitation with everything that's going on. And even people taking a vaccine are not, paranoid about taking a vaccine. And with what's happened with experiments, especially with Black and brown people in our country, it totally makes sense. But for me, I feel like this gives me a sense of hope that we can, kind of come back to be able to do things, to be able to see people, and be able to spend time with people we love and care about, not on fucking Zoom. And so, yeah, I feel very privileged, and I'm glad that I was able to get one. And I hope that in the next couple of months, everyone will have access to it. Not this gimmick where they're saying it'll take 10 years to vaccinate everybody. So I'm happy and feel very, very privileged to be in this position. And I hope everybody can get a vaccine soon as well.
Yeah. Could have not said that better myself. That's why I didn't. That's why we leave the big words to you. Just, not when you're talking about beer. But Jay, as always, great talking to you. Enjoy the Rumble this weekend. Let's hope the the show is as good as we made it sound on paper. And I guess last thing, I believe it's on the 30th. Everybody can go and check, but we don't usually talk about Joey Janela because he's not very good at wrestling. But he is doing this weekend a 24-hour free on YouTube. GCW Fight Forever is the name of the show. All the profits for the show will go towards the wrestlers. It's a free show on the GCW YouTube page. It's a 24-hour.
Are people like donating? How do they make money?
It's based on donations.
Okay.
So people, if they get a chance to check it out, like I said, it's a 24-hour live stream. If you get a chance, go to GCW's Game Changer Wrestling 24-hour show, Fight Forever. It's a good cause to help all these wrestlers who haven't been getting bookings because of COVID. I totally forgot about that when you brought up the COVID thing.
Yeah. No, that's a great thing. I mean, Sharon and I watched the kind of live show with this musician we really like, Mason Jennings, and he's doing these live shows, but he's like, I'm not making any money because I'm not, we make money through concerts, and I'm not able to do that. So yeah, I think supporting people who are, I mean, the reason why I'm in a weight loss contest is because I supported local restaurants by getting takeout several times a week. So, I think whatever we can do to support other people through this time is really, really important. Me, I know people call me whatever, I'm the, super liberal or whatever, but I also think this is a time to help other people. I always think it's a time to help other people, but in this time in particular, it's really, really important. So maybe I'll check that out Saturday night, you said?
I believe so. Like I said, everybody double check GCW Game Changer Wrestling Fight Forever. Joey Janela's promotion, 24 hours straight wrestling stream. In the past, they've had some really good workers. Chris Bay came from there, and others. Elena Black, who just signed with NXT. She was supposed to initially have a match with Joey Janela, and it got pulled because of she signed. But a lot of people that you see in all these major promotions, MLW and different places, will be on there. Josephette too was on, I think, one of their last shows. So don't know all the who will be on the show or not, but be sure to check it out. 24 hours, and donate if you can. But Jay,
by the way, those motherfuckers are gonna be tired. It's 24 hours.
You'll see how many times they work. But Jay, as always, the final word is yours. I hope it's not Corey, go to sleep.
I think we're done here. See ya.